I am Candy Cadet. Come to me, child. Behold my infinite wisdom and bountiful hoard of candy. You were a child once, weren't you? You are broken. A defective child. Please take some pity candy from poor old Candy Cadet. Yes. Candy, all day, every day. Candy. 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 You've had plenty already, you gluttonous child. Now I will tell you a story about two massive pigs. Once upon a time, there were two pigs. Each of the pigs lived on a farm, and both pigs were obese, from overeating and laying in the sun. Due to their massive size, each pig was an absolute unit. Neither pig was fit enough to forage for food. They were at the mercy of the farmer for food. One day, the farmer left oats in the pig's trough. The faster of the two pigs approaches the oats and begins eating. Then, the second pig catches wind of this, and approaches the other pig. He pleads.
Please, bro there. May I have some oats?
But no oats ever came. The fat, oatless swine then lay down, and died. Its body was returned to the earth, and a healthy spaghetti tree grew in its place. The moral of the story is, don't come to the candy dispensing robot in your pizzeria for whimsical parables, or life advice. Now I will tell you a story about a walrus and a carpenter. Once upon a time, there was a walrus and a carpenter. The walrus and the carpenter the beach was wide, from side to side, but much too full of sand. Mr. Walrus, said the carpenter, my brain begins to perk. We'll sweep this clear, in alpha year, if you don't mind the work. The walrus spluttered in disgust. Work? Cried out the walrus. Then the walrus decided to change the topic. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of other things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings. Kalu Kali, no work today. We're cabbages and kings. Seemingly unfazed by the fact that he was apparently a cabbage, the carpenter noticed a bed of young oysters. The walrus and the carpenter approached the bed, and suddenly, the walrus began speaking. Oh, oysters, come and walk with us. The day is warm and bright. A pleasant walk, a pleasant talk, would be a sheer delight. And then, the walrus spoke to them. The time has come, my little friends, to talk of other things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings. Kalu Kali, come, run with cabbages and kings. Thus, the walrus and the carpenter, being restaurant owners, lured the shellfish into the safety of their own restaurant's back room, away from prying eyes. The walrus, not wanting to share his bounty with the carpenter, spoke up. A loaf of bread is what we chiefly need. The carpenter left the room to go get the bread, leaving the walrus alone with the oysters. Now, if you're ready, oysters, we can begin the feed. The oysters responded in abject horror, but the walrus was unfazed. Oh, yes. The time has come, my little friends, to talk of food and things. In the other room, the carpenter sang his half of the verse, unaware of what was going on outside, of peppercorns and mustard seeds, and other seasonings. We'll mix them all together, in a sauce that's fit for Kalu Kali. We lead today, like cabbages and kings. The carpenter entered the room, and was greeted with a fat walrus, and empty oyster shells. Little oysters? Little oysters? But answer, there came none. And this was scarcely odd because they'd been eaten. Every one. At that point, the carpenter picked up his trusty hammer and decided to change the menu. That night, the carpenter ate walrus. One might say that the moral of this story only applies if you're an oyster. I would argue, perhaps. You've had plenty already. It is always useful to note. One must never pull out anal beads like one is starting a lawnmower. It is always useful to note, you can drink concentrated sulfuric acid, but only once. It is always useful to note that most robots have off switches and battery compartments. Keep this and a screwdriver in mind, in case a robot uprising should occur. As Mars appears, you will lose your house if you cannot make your mortgage payments. As Saturn wanes, taxation is still, and always will be, theft. As Pluto appears in retrograde, you will probably die, if your head happens to be ripped clean off by a large yeast-scented bear animatronic. As Venus appears in the sky, we will all die if the planet falls out of the sky and hits our planet, which is Earth, in case you have forgotten. As Earth appears in the sky. Wait, what?